Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining us. A very special gathering. It's our second panel discussion as part of FSB Cologne. I'll be introducing you to our amazing panel in just a few seconds. But before that, a few words of welcome from Conica Managing Director Chirag Shah. Chirag.
Andy, I always have to say, like, it's the second time in a row, even like a small person like me feels always like a big celebrity when you announce me. Great, thank you so much. I won't make this too long. I'm really glad and happy that every one of you joined us. It's really great to see so many friends and partners of Conica, and really looking forward to this amazing event with these experts. Talking about sustainability, which is maybe a topic which has been spoken a lot of times about. I think today in a setup with all these experts, I'm really looking forward to bringing all the expertise into one panel discussion, giving you insights from different perspectives, and actually just enjoying also this very lovely scenery here at Cologne Sky, and afterwards the event with the festivity and a lot of talks and fun. Enjoy, have a great evening, and Andy, now introduce really the rock stars, the real ones, our experts. Thank you.
Thank you, Chirag. So yes, good evening, everybody. Welcome to the wonderful venue that is Cologne Sky, and to this very special panel discussion program brought to you by Conica. I'm unimportant, but my name is Andy Kay. I'll be your moderator for the next 45 minutes or so, and I'm joined by a very select quartet of guests that make up our expert panel. Bill Famaglietti is GEO Global at Amarin Sports. Irina Akhmanova, Associate Principal Senior Architectural Designer at Populous. Dr. Martin Schlegel, Advisor, Board Member and Director of Chemnira Consulting. And James Wright, Managing Director of Conica Limited and of Playtop. So as you can see, we are wonderfully represented when it comes to natural materials, architectural foresight, system integration, regulation, and recycling. And that bears us well, considering we are approaching this evening under this title: Can sustainable materials, smart design, and strong partnerships deliver performance-proven sport and leisure surfaces while meeting today's environmental and social expectations? Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome your panel. And also joining us later from the floor will be my co-moderator, Sylvia Schultz. Sylvie, she'll be collecting your questions throughout the discussion, and we'll be putting them to the panel at the end of the evening. All you need to do is just scan the QR code that's currently on the screen. That will give you access to the portal where you can post your questions. Just in case you're wondering, all the questions are anonymous, so please feel free to ask what you really want to ask. And you can use any language. We will do our very, very best to translate them. I think Chirag's about 5 or 6 languages, so we should be okay. And then one thing to say before we really get going, and that is, this is not a sales pitch. I do want to make that perfectly clear. Many of you here already work with Conica. You'll know what the company is all about. This is completely as advertised. It's a panel discussion where hopefully you'll leave the evening with more knowledge and more insight than when you walked in the door. So, make a start. And Bill, I'm going to ask you to get us going. You've worked with the cork material for most of your life. Simple question to start. What is cork? Where does it come from?
I have absolutely no idea. No. I came a little prepared for this because I'm a visual learner, so I want you to be a visual learner. Cork is the bark of the cork oak tree, and it's really an amazing product. I mean, this is a product that once you plant the tree, which most people don't realize, you don't get your first wine or champagne stopper for 50 years. So until the cork grows enough, which is really the third cycle of the cork then gives us the fruit of the labor. What's also amazing about cork, it's renewable. So when we take the harvest off the tree, every 8 to 9 years, we go back, because it grows back, and takes another harvest off the trees. We get 30 harvests off the tree. So when you look at cork and you say, wow, my wine and champagne stopper, what do I do with it? We have a recork program throughout the world where the more you drink wine, please, we will recycle them, turn them into building materials, infills, products for this. And the other thing about this particular cork, the wine and champagne stoppers are the major use. Every piece of this will be used. The last part will be a biofuel, but every part of this cork is used and reused over and over. So we are the sustainable product from the start to the finish. Thank you, Andy.
No, thank you, Bill. That was great. What makes cork unique as a sustainable material, and how would it compare, say, to synthetic alternatives in terms of heat resistance, durability, maintenance?
Well, heat resistance, let's start with that. I mean, we're so proud of the Amarim Group that almost every rocket that goes up to outer space comes back with the astronauts alive because they use cork as a thermal protector to bring that cork back. And that's our thermal protection product. We've actually had astronauts at our facility who thank our people for making cork in what we call our P50, P45. It's also a product that is cooling in, say, an artificial turf field. It can cool the turf field by 15 to 20% just by being cork instead of other products that can be used out there. So cork is one of the people that I've worked with over the years called it nature's gift to us, and I would have to agree. So
some of the installers who are here, and a lot of the audience are installers, so they'll be working with cork. Where are we going to find it in terms of a track or a sporting surface?
When you look at the cork itself, cork is making inroads, and the team of people we have fantastic innovation people, salespeople, so they're always looking for, and this is a term we use within Amarim, why cork? So the most prevalent place you're going to see it is in artificial turf fields. It is becoming the #1 non-rubber infill in the world. And we have tens of thousands of fields installed globally now. But if you go down to the Conica booth, and I got to tell you, I was blown away when I went over there today. Fabulous booth. You're going to see cork in their tracks. So, I mean, the value added of why cork, the Conica team is seeing those values in there. So, who knows, 5 years from now, 3 years from now, how many? You might be using cork-infused products in your tracks. We also do cork playground systems. We call it corkine. We use a top layer, bottom layer, and it's gaining huge inroads because people like the cooling effect. When you're in Arizona in the US and it's 90 degrees out, the cork itself is probably in the high 70s. So kids can lay on it and play on it. It drains fantastically. You get the same use as you would with EPDMs or other things. So it's becoming more and more prevalent throughout the industry. So you're going to start seeing it more and more. So look for it, ask for it. It's a sustainable product, and we'd love to have you try our product.
Bill, thank you very much. I'll do my very best to provide you with as much cork back as I possibly can.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
And all of you, please.
Now, Irina, welcome to Cologne. Lovely to have you here. Populous is one of the world's leading architectural companies. Can you tell us your role and sort of a description of your day-to-day work with Populous?
Oh, yes, I'm an associate principal. I'm leading the projects of the stadiums and arenas, leading the team, and dealing with all the sub-consultants, all the contractors, and all the clients. And I'm actually tidying them up together so the sub-consultants and all the contractors can fulfill the requirements that are coming from the client. So my job is to make sure that the facilities that I design will meet not only the expectations of the clients, but also all the highest standards for the athletes, for their safety, for their performance. If we are speaking about the World Championships or events like this, the quality is very, very much important because we are talking about the world records and we are talking about the health of elite athletes. And I am very much into all these technical details because for last almost 20 years, I'm designing sports facilities, starting from very small ones and ending up with the Olympic Games, FIFA Championships, World Athletics, and others. And for sports architecture, it's very important to know this detailing. So it's a bit different to the general architecture. We need to know how every small piece of our playgrounds, our facilities are made, and what's inside. It's not just designing walls. And everyday work looks like not just creating the solutions, not just creating the programs or drawings, but constantly communicate with engineers, with the suppliers, with the options that we can provide to the client. And yeah, that's how we do it.
Sounds busy.
Oh yeah, but fun.
But fun. Looking at your company's background and doing the research for this, I was quite shocked to see that Populous was talking about sustainability long before it was popular to do so. I'm assuming, though, that you still face some serious challenges, even though you and your company have been on this approach for many, many years. Yes,
because it's not depending only on architects, right? All parties involved in the process of developing the project or bringing it to life, they have to be standing on this position of being sustainable or not. Sometimes, and a lot of the times, it's challenging because sometimes you're dealing with the clients who want to save money, actually. So for them, the sustainability question is not that important like the budget, right? Sometimes you're dealing with some restrictions from the government and it pushes the sustainability forward. Like, for example, I live in Singapore and Singaporean government is very strict when it comes to the question of sustainability. And now they have a plan for year 2030. And it wouldn't be allowed to build anything that is not ticking the boxes, the mandatory boxes. And that changes the mind shift of the developers and all the construction companies. In some other countries, it's not like that. So it's always a balance in the negotiation, what we can bring into this project and how sustainable it can be. I cannot say that all the projects are, 100% sustainable. It would be a lie. I'm not lying, but we are trying to do our best.
Thank you very much indeed, Irina. Martin, it's great to have you here.
Thank you.
What does it take for these sustainable materials, these innovative materials? And I would include cork in that. I mean, it's ever evolving, I would imagine. But what does it take for these to perform reliably without compromising athletic and energetic performance?
Well, I think one of the key elements is, regardless of whether you're going to replace materials that are currently in the systems that are installed, it's always about the performance characteristics in the end. So we would expect that a system that you'll design differently still meets the requirements of the respective sport, be it from the performance characteristics, be it from the athletic interaction, or if there's equipment involved, the ball bounce and all of these kind of things. But also, and this comes back to the sustainability question, if something only lasts for 4 weeks, that's also not sustainable. So there's all of these aspects from durability, and obviously sport is, there's indoor sports, outdoor sports, but a lot of facilities are outdoors, so they have to actually also take into account that you have rain, you have sun, and other elements that are exposing these materials.
As many of our installers will know, there is, of course, rigorous testing, lots of international requirements. You work within that environment. Why are these standards so important? I mean, you mentioned a few just there, but more specifically, what mistakes, what problems can they prevent?
Yeah, it's interesting because my career, I started out building or manufacturing these systems, and now I'm on the other side, sometimes get involved as an expert witness, and you see things where you ask yourself, how stupid are we making these mistakes? Because if something falls apart before its useful life, actually, and then the sport can't be performed safely, or somebody has to go out and actually assess it and take it up. What are you going to do with those materials that then have to be thrown out and then rebuild it? So there's a lot of aspects that come together there.
Okay, thank you very much. And James, great to have you here.
Thank you.
And you are here, as I say, not because we need you to get your checkbooks out, not yet, because you have real-life, hands-on knowledge from the world of recycled and circular materials. How does it actually feel to give something a second life?
Yeah, well, it's interesting. Obviously, from our point of view at Conica UK, we don't only do all of the full range of Conica products, but we actually started life in our current guise as a tyre recycling business. So we take end-of-life truck tyres and we recycle those into their constituent components, which will be steel, which is probably the most circular material in the world, and rubber granules, which we then use in our playground and sports surfacing products. But to be able to give products second life and to see the way that allows us to reduce the consumption of virgin materials is really, really fantastic. But not only do we recycle tires, we have this amazing relationship with Nike, who probably were one of the first companies to take sustainability really seriously, certainly in the consumer goods environment. And what Nike do is they take end-of-life sports shoes, end-of-life apparel, and they recycle those back down into materials that can be reused. That's a prime example. I didn't bring a prop like Bill, but hey, I do have my Nike sneakers on. And Nike have a fantastic program where they will take sneakers and they will break them down into the individual components. And what we do at Conica is we work with them on the rubber, which is the base sole of the shoe, and we recycle that back into playground surfacing and sports surfacing. Fantastic way of building a collaboration between a major brand and ourselves in a way that actually delivers real-world benefit to our customers.
Indeed. I was reading about the Nike Grind project. You know, it's absolutely fascinating stuff. But what should installers know about using recycled granules in terms of things like handling, durability, maintenance? I'm sure it's different from synthetic materials.
Well, in actually most cases, no, it's not. And that's one of the key things that Irina touched on, is that when you're looking at sustainability and sustainable materials, what you're looking for is, in an ideal world, products that perform the same way from a performance characteristics point of view, have similar durability, and can be installed in a similar manner. And that's one of the benefits of certainly the Nike Grind recycled rubber we use, because it is very much an interchangeable product with the EPDM, which is typically used in sports and playground surfaces. So actually, from an installer's point of view, they can interchange without any major difference at all. So that's a really positive benefit to an installer. They can opt for a more sustainable material without having any detriment to the way they work on a day-to-day basis.
Okay, James, thank you very much indeed. Don't forget to get your questions in for the panel. James is very much looking forward to questions from his Conica colleagues. The QR code is there, and a reminder that Sylvie will be putting those questions to our guests at the end of the evening. Before that, though, let's broaden this out a little bit, and panel guests, please don't wait for me to prompt you. If you want to start debating amongst yourselves, that's absolutely fine. I was with them earlier on and we got into a very deep conversation, so I think this will happen organically already. But Bill, perhaps you could start us off on this. How can recycling and reuse become standard practice rather than the exception?
Well, one, it has to be products then that work, because you talked about it. Nobody wants inferior products that they have to pay more for and do less. So we have to get our recycling programs up and running, number one, where they kick out a A-grade product. Because no one wants special handling, this, that, and the other. I mean, I hear a lot from people that say, well, yeah, I'd use recycled products, but I won't pay €1 more. It has to be as good, dependable, and I want the same 15-year warranty, 20-year warranty, 25, whatever you're going to offer. So, I mean, we have to pick up our game and not just say good enough. Okay? So that's number one. So, I mean, I'll throw that out to the team here, what their opinions are. But
Yeah, it was actually the part of our conversation earlier today. From my perspective, from my client's perspective, it's the same. Especially if it's some community sports and small facilities, they have a budget. And if I'm coming with them with some solution that will cost them 2 times more, we all know that we will end up with some cheaper solution and they wouldn't be just using it. So the idea of making these reusable materials and recycled materials much more affordable and equal to the alternatives that they use now, that's the main one, because this will help to promote this sustainable approach, and this will help to install these products on sites.
Thank you very much. Martin?
There's probably a thought here, particularly when you're talking about public projects. So together with the University of California in Berkeley, there was a study done that looked at can actually regulations spur innovation. And so David Vogel looked at that and the Greening California kind of thought process. If I have regulations that demand something, then that can actually start an innovative process. And so I think in the sports industry, we'll probably have a couple levers that we can pull. One, the governing sporting bodies. If they, and so Olympic Games, I mean, if I look at LA or if I look at Brisbane 2032, there is now a desire to look at the footprint, the environmental footprint of that. So can that be through regulations? Can it be through self-regulation of an industry? I don't know. Or can it be through a mechanism that when something goes wrong, that actually that gets calculated into the whole consideration.
Yeah.
So I think there's different ways to get to that point, but at the same time, and I think everybody agrees, what actually gets installed needs to still be good enough for the activity that needs to occur.
Yeah, that's becoming very clear.
Yeah.
Innovation, James, is a word that is bandied around in many industries, certainly within the sports industry, sometimes possibly too much innovation for innovation's sake. I don't think we're talking about that here, but in order for this to be successful, surely we must be talking about collaboration between producers, collaboration with our architects, with our installers. I can't see this going forward unless there is a unified front.
Yeah, unification of objectives is absolutely critical to make this a success. As Martin alluded to and Irina alluded to, legislation, either from regulatory bodies like governments or regulatory bodies within the industry, is absolutely critical because that sets the agenda. Then in terms of product choice, it's got to be about a balance of benefits and the value proposition. The value proposition for the sustainable solution has got to be as good, if not better overall, than the product in which it replaced. Then it's an easy decision. But collaboration with other partners, big players in the sports industry, like we have with Nike, is again another key way to bring sustainability in to the overall picture. But I think one area we need to collaborate more with as an industry is end of life. So there's a lot of talk about sustainability where we're talking about product and product performance. But actually, if we're going to be really sustainable, we need to think about full circularity, and we need to think about end-of-life solution. And end-of-life solutions that are designed at the innovation stage. Only truly will we then have something that is adding value and delivering on the sustainability agenda for all. So we have to be thinking about when those products come up, how do we then recycle them, get them ideally reused and back into sports surfacing. That's utopia, and that's one of the visions we have as Conica to try and achieve.
Cool. Bill, I'm just wondering if you found in your experience, is there a massive difference, and considering this, continuing this collaboration theme, is there a massive difference between public institutions and private companies when it comes to using sustainable materials?
It depends on where you're looking, because where's the money? Okay, when you say public institutions, so for example, if you're looking at the USA and you're looking at Notre Dame and you're looking at big money places like that, no, they want the best playability for the athlete and give themselves the chance for the best chance to win. There was a thing, one of the first fields where they lowered temperatures and they did this and did different things was Arizona State. When Arizona State put this in, every football coach that played at Arizona State came back to his athletic director and said, we're at a competitive disadvantage that our home field doesn't give us. If you want to make the top bowls, get the NIL money, get kids, that's one thing. But when you're looking at the local inner city high school, it's a whole different thing. I mean, then it's all about what can we afford to put an artificial turf field in for less than 400,000 or 500 or 300. Where do we get donations? Where do we get this? Something like this. So let's not fool ourselves. It's always about the money.
Always.
I was going to say, I saw a smile creep across your face when
yes,
when I asked that question. From an architect's perspective, you must see a difference between different customers.
It is, and I was working with the different government bodies in different countries and even continents, and was working with the different clients. I even had a client who was building a stadium, 50,000 spectator football stadium, for his own money, not some company's money. It was his own money. It was his dream to build himself a stadium, and
Wasn't Donald, was it? Wasn't Donald? No.
but the approach was so much different, because when he was spending his own money, he wanted to buy the best products that will last for a long time, because he said, I don't want to replace all this stuff in 2-year time or 5-year time. It's his own money. He was calculating. When it comes to the government now, a lot of governments are calculating the money too, but from this good perspective. They say, no, we don't want to buy the cheapest and make a tender for the cheapest solution, because we want it to last for at least 20 or 30 years without any hassle of maintenance, changing the products and changing the equipment, and going through all this all over again every year. So yes, it's all about the money, it's all about the budgets. Small facilities, they don't have the budgets, but it's always a question of the program as well. And there comes the very interesting question. All the people who are operating the facilities, or who are also installing, are also involved in this future life of the facilities, they have to be a part of the discussion of the program of a future facility and design from the beginning. Because in a lot of situations, we have all the specialists on board quite late, when it's too late, when the budget is already established, and then we find out that we don't have money for the proper track, right? We have money for a nice and fancy changing room, but we don't have money for a nice field of play, because we are running out of the budget. And that is a big question, and that is a big problem, especially when it comes to the government projects. So if we will involve the specialists from the beginning in writing these briefs, in writing the requirements to these facilities, that would help quite a lot. But yeah, still, at the end, it will be who is paying and how much do they want to pay.
Indeed. Martin?
But there's another level of complexity, and we're talking about, let's say, professional athletes, college athletes, and things like that. But I guess a number of people that install surfaces do that for local sports clubs, communities. And so if you think, and I'll take the situation in Australia, majority of the facilities are actually paid for by local government communities, maybe with some state funding on top of that. But they also have to cater to a multitude of different sports. They cannot only say, oh, I'm only paying for this field, for this sport, because there's others that want to do different things. So the question about how do we accommodate multi-sport facilities, particularly in a community setting, and then put all of these other requirements on top without compromising, that's difficult.
Indeed. James, you've got a foot in a number of camps, but the two I'm interested in at the moment would be professional sport and the play surfaces. Where do you see these markets, or which of these markets do you see expanding the quickest with these sustainable materials? We're looking at schools, urban play, professional tracks. Where are we going?
I think it really depends on the country. It depends on the funding stream. It depends on the legislation in that country, the level of development in that country. So typically we will see sustainability typically gets first world led, and it's normally driven by legislation. But if we can then develop sustainable solutions in the more developed world, and they are ones that tick all the boxes, and effectively the value proposition is as good, if not better than the materials they're replacing, they will get adopted and rolled out across markets. In terms of the ones that will grow most quickly, it's likely to be, in my opinion, the playground sector, because there is still a large part of the playground sector that is funded by local authority, local government, where the stakeholders are going to be making society-based decisions rather than straight commercial decisions. So they will take more factors into consideration than it's strictly how much it's going to cost. What you've also got is the size of the project is smaller. So the increase in cost, if there is any, for a more sustainable solution is much more palatable, and it's repeatable on a much larger scale. So I think the playground sector will see the adoption of some of these technologies and sustainable solutions much more quickly. As an example, we've actually done that within the Conica group. So playgrounds was where we started with the Nike grind materials. Playgrounds typically have used sustainable SBR rubber granules in the base layers, whereas sport has become, or because the projects are much bigger, the performance characteristics are so much more precise, they've been slower to adopt sustainable technologies and sustainable products because of those performance points and the risk of performance. But now we've been able to develop within Conica track surfaces and sports surfaces that include Nike grind. So whilst we are a little bit behind where we've been with playground, we now have the ability to start introducing those in sport. But I think playground will always lead and sport will then follow.
Okay.
Another
Can I jump on
aspect.
it as well?
Sorry.
Sorry.
Irina first.
Actually, like for the big ones and for the professional elite level of athletes, a very nice driver for the innovations and for sustainability is the big games. Like now in Brisbane, we have the Olympics coming, and the requirements from the government are so strict that you cannot be non-sustainable because you wouldn't win the contract. And that means that you have to find, as a, I don't know, construction company or any supplier, you need to find a solution to tick all the boxes, the requirements from the government to get into this project. And therefore, you have to think hard. What I should do to still be profitable, you know, to still keep my business sustainable, but get inside this project. And these big events, they're very good drivers, because then you can just implement your solutions and your future works, right?
Yeah. Martin, you were going to come in.
Yeah, and so we can also look at, so in Australia, besides playgrounds, I've seen now actually in the retail sector, like if you have a sneaker store, for instance, yeah, they install, and similar to the Nike grind, the footwear industry in Australia has a program, Save Our Souls, it's called, and they install these surfaces in the retail environment, and so it's not all park benches and flower pots and stuff like that. I think we can think broader where these materials could be used.
Okay. Talking of the materials themselves, we've had a few buzzwords so far. We've had consistency, circularity. I imagine that uniformity is going to be pretty important as well. So, Bill, if we've got some installers here who do a job in the USA in week 1 and then they go to the UK in week 2, are they going to find that the cork materials that, I know you can't speak for other companies, but are they going to be exactly the same? Are there differences? Are there things they need to know about?
Well, one thing I'd like to say, because I was thinking about this as we're talking, and this is a huge responsibility, say in the turf business. All the innovations in turf mostly start, I shouldn't say all and mostly in the same time, but mostly start in Europe. Europe is the proving ground, training ground. The Netherlands has always been like the turf gurus, you know, they're the whisperers. So you're ahead of the game. Anything that's happening, for example, and then in the US, after you do it, 3 to 6 years later, if it's innovative and it's sustainable and it's environmentally friendly, California picks it up. And then it'll come across. The UK, in general, for the turf industry, is the last. They're the last, kicking and screaming. We've done it since before we were fighting in the USA, and we're going to do it the same way, you know, as we do it now. So to answer your question, there's not availability of all the products, because what's new, innovative, sustainable in Europe isn't going to hit many parts of the world for 3, 5, 8 years or more. So no to that question. So if they're doing that, comparable products will be available, because most of the companies that are doing well in the business today are global companies. Most of us, it's very few. And people are buying people, they're doing this, they're getting this, and they're getting bigger, 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 and more global. So, but that part, but this the same. It starts here. Your responsibility.
Okay, thank you very much. Time is marching on. I can't believe it's already 10 to 8. Sylvie, just checking, how are we doing for questions? Do we have some questions we could ask the panel? Okay, microphone is all yours.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me?
If you hold it as close to your mouth as you can. That's
Closer?
Yeah, that's good.
Here we go. Good evening, everyone. Thanks, Andy. We've had some great questions come in from the audience. Time-wise, we won't be able to get to all of them, but let's start with the first one. William, they'd like to know whether the source or availability of cork is unlimited, or in other words, where the limits of its availability lie.
Great question. So the answer would be no, it's not unlimited. So there's not an unlimited source. So what we do as Amarim is we are trying to where the value added is. So most times, and with Conica is a great example, or the turf or whatever, where cork is the added value, and we're combining it with other sustainable materials. So for example, we'll do cork and olive pits, cork and other things. Our playgrounds will do, you know, cork, and we'll even add some sustainable recycled materials. We've used Nike grind in the past. We'll use it for our underlayments. So we really have to take the cork and make it grow more. But the Amarim Group, and I said this before, is investing not for the ownership today, which is probably in their 50s and 60s, but for their children and their children's children. And we're building irrigation systems. We're doing things. We're trying to get the cork tree to grow maybe a little faster, a little different. But we're investing in the cork. If you look at cork, it's mostly available in Portugal, Spain, parts of Italy, Northern Africa. It's not, there is no cork in the United States. So that's why President Trump gave us what's the word you would say? He took away the tariff on cork for the USA because we're not competing with a local source. So we were given a waiver. That's the word. The waiver on cork. So no to answer the question, but you know what? We're going to go where it adds the most value and add it with other products to have a good product.
Okay, thanks, Bill.
Thank you so much. Irina, I believe this one's for you. Do cities and architects really choose sustainable materials, or does price still win most of the time?
Oh, it's again a challenging question. Architects, they do influence the choice of the products and the choice of materials. And we can influence the clients if we see that it's not because somebody paying us for that. It's because when we see the value in it, we can influence the clients. And we, as an architects, we typically care about the sustainability, and we want to make the project better. It can work like that, but there is one thing that always staying on our way. It's the way of building the facilities that is called design and build. When architects are generally making the concept, an initial phase of the project like SD, schematic design, and then handling it to the construction company. And then the construction company goes through the value engineering and cutting all the costs, like cutting all the fat from your project. And then you will end up looking at your project made out of the cheapest materials that you can even imagine. In some countries, this design and build is a very popular way of building. In some countries, government is not allowing it, so architects have to stay till the end of the project and look over the project till the end of the construction. In this case, we can influence, but we cannot compare, like we cannot fight this design and build system. I don't know how it's working, like if it's popular a lot here in Germany or in general in Europe. It's very popular in America. In America, it's quite a popular thing. It's very popular in Australia, in Asian regions as well. And in this case, you're losing the value of sustainable materials because they can be replaced with a cheap option very easily by the construction company, and architects cannot stop it.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, we do have another one. Martin, I hope you're ready for this one. Where is the performance trade-off? If we push sustainability, what do we sacrifice in speed, grip, or lifespan, and how would you measure it?
I would measure it with a stopwatch if it's a running event. But no, I think it goes back to what I said earlier. If we accept that the performance characteristics that we use to identify a particular surface are valid, then that's what the materials have to stack up to. Now, if through, and we talked about that legislation might rule out certain materials or might legislate to change certain things, then sport has to actually be able to say, look, because of these changes, we're going to change the acceptance ranges, or we're going to widen what we can accept. The problem then is that in most cases, I think we're missing right now that link between, let's say, sports science and biomechanics, and to say, all right, and here we have a performance characteristics that maps that. So there is some work that needs to be done to answer that particular question, I think.
Thank you. And one of the last questions is, well, I believe this is directed at everyone to discuss. If we look about 10 years ahead, will recycled or natural materials, in your opinions, dominate the market?
Let's start down this end, James.
Dominate, no, but playing an increasingly important part in decision making and the products that get installed, yes.
Martin, your view? World domination on the horizon?
No, I think we're going to see a hybrid come up, because there's some materials that have proven to be fairly stable, and we'll probably see, as James was saying, how can what we have already reuse in a way that we get to full circularity, and that I think is probably where it's going to head.
Okay. Bill, are you and Amarin going to be producing more cork in 10 years' time? We'll be
50 maybe.
doing our bit.
No, there won't be world domination, but there'll be increase in market share. People will become more aware. People will care more. And I think it'll start, one of the things you're going to see is outside of Europe, the United States, say Australia and some of those. I mean, we're starting to see people caring in Africa, the Middle East, South America. There's going to be more global growth on caring, except for just the countries and continents that have cared, but I think it's going to spread more globally.
Okay. And Irina, how different are the stadiums going to be that you're designing in 10 years'
I am
time?
actually happy to see that big organizations are really pushing now for sustainability, like Olympic Committee when they are issuing their requirements to the stadiums. They all pushing the question of reuse and recycle, even the reuse of concrete, not just some surfaces. So we need to reuse everything that we can actually, not just steel. And the more they push, the more we have to think how to actually implement it, because it's a quite tough architectural job as well to take something that is not new. Or also, another big thing is the push of the reuse and renovation of the existing facilities instead of building new ones. And there you can, have some freedom of using some reused materials because you save the budget on the construction in general. Yeah. So that would be a push. Obviously, they wouldn't dominate. It's such a small period of time, 10 years. They're not going to dominate, but they will play a more significant role. Like, remember us 10 years ago. We weren't speaking that much about that. Nobody cared. Like in general. Now we are speaking more of it, and we are more aware of what we can do. Not for the sake of saving the planet, actually, but just for the sake of being more mindful and sensible with the resources that we have.
Cool. We are nearly out of time, unbelievably. Thank you very much for those people who put questions in. I think we'd agree that our panel is relatively unified. I'm just wondering if we can just possibly get a little wedge in between a couple of them. So last question from me. It's a question for all four of you. We'll start down the far end with Irina. What makes a material truly sustainable? Is it A, what it's made from, or B, how long it lasts? You're going to go for A or B? There's no prize, by the way.
For me, it's how long it lasts, because we are designing for this building to stay like at least 50 years, and I don't want it to die, this material, in 2 years' time. So it's more like, how long does it last?
Bill?
The material itself. And the reason I say that is you can always extend the life by the improvements. You cannot change the material itself. So if the material is not sustainable, there's no way to make it a long-term sustainable product. So, based by the question.
Excellent. Martin?
So it is both, because if the material doesn't last, then that is not sustainable. If I go to a job site and I basically have to assess and say, this is going to be ripped out, that is not sustainable.
Yeah. No. Even if it's made of perfect sustainable sources.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, and James, just to finish us off?
I'd actually say it's neither.
Okay.
And what
Great, so we've got A, B, both, and neither.
So,
we're all wrong.
What I mean by that is, for a product, for a material product, whatever, to be truly sustainable, it's what you do with it at the end of its life is so much more important than what the material is and how long it lasts. Yeah, of course, those are important factors, but if you can only use it once, then that's limiting. If you can continue to recycle and reuse, and that product has full circularity, then that's where the future is.
Okay. Thank you very much indeed for everything. I'm going to ask you just to sit in your chairs for 60 more seconds before I give you a little bit of housekeeping news. Before that, though, would you please show your appreciation for our fantastic panel, Irina, Bill, Martin, and James. Thank you.
Thank you very much.